And good evening. That's usually David's line to say good evening, introduce me to Larry Conley Radio Show and all that good stuff. But my partner in crime can't make it tonight. We got some scheduling issues. David's a busy guy, writing films and traveling the world, teaching people and all that good stuff. So anyway, so I said, well, who can I get that can be a great replacement for my co-host? And I couldn't think of none other than the world famous Chief Tiffanye Wesley out of Arlington County Fire Department, retired. And we're going to talk about that tonight, and among a few things. But welcome back to the show. And if you don't know, figured out by now, I'm Larry Conley. That's me. That's where the applause comes in. Thank you. Stop. No, really, keep going. But anyway, tonight we're going to have another great show. And, it's Uncle Larry's favorite time of the year. Memorial Day has passed, and it's the unofficial start of summer. And, I'm a tropical brother. I'm not a cold weather brother. So I'm have fun for these next couple of months. It's going to be warm outside. Now, I don't like extremely hot. Everybody knows that. I don't like extremely cold either. Somewhere in the middle, but we got some good days. I can, sit on the deck and enjoy some beverages, some lemonade and a few other things. But anyway, mostly just chill out because you can't do that in the wintertime. I was looking at snow and bare trees and depression, but now summer's here. I got green trees and nice breezes and all kind of great stuff going on in St. Louis. And speaking of great things going on in St. Louis, I want to tell everybody, just take a moment to say a quick prayer for everybody in St. Louis who suffered during our recent tornado, which was back on May 16th. And we haven't seen anything of that magnitude and that much destruction since 1959. And I know most of you saying, when you was a kid, no, I ain't that old, but nonetheless, there was a devastating tornado, EF3, that came in in the afternoon of May 16th. And it just did all kind of destruction. It did it in probably one of the neighborhood that really didn't need it. I mean, it was a lot in one of our depressed areas, close to a place where I grew up and went to high school. And when I go back over there and I helped out with the union. The union has a task force that's going over and putting up tarps and helping do cleanup and all that kind of stuff. So I went out with them and we made the difference in the neighborhood, along with other countless volunteers who are doing the same thing to try to get this recovery. And that if you know the motto, it's all about preparedness, and then you got the recovery and you got mitigation and you got all kind of stuff to try to make it as successful long-term recovery as possible. So right now, the EOC is up and running. We got state input. We're trying to get those FEMA funds in so we can help the people in North St. Louis, most notably the Ville area. It tore through parts of Forest Park, Clayton, came up a street called Delmar, and then went through the historic neighborhood we call the Ville, and just tore it up something bad. I mean, it looks like a bomb went off, really. And you see this stuff on TV, but when you just actually walk the streets and seeing trees that like 100-foot tall, a friend of mine, his tree just missed his house, 100-foot tall tree. And I mean, I ain't lying. The tree was probably bigger than my car at the base, and it fell all the way over into the street. It's just some devastating stuff. You think you're in control. The God sends a tornado, and you're like, yeah, I thought my house was tough. I thought my car was tough, but when you just see things tossed around and that kind of devastation is crazy. I know we lost 5 people, at least 2 of the people I knew. One guy used to work on the St. Louis Fire Department EMS. His wife passed. She got caught up, and they were on their way to the basement, and the winds blew her back, and She perished in the tornado. Another, these people, I don't actually know them personally, but I know who they are. They were pillars in the community. And his wife was in church doing feeding, doing one of those meals where you feed the homeless and things like that. And when the tornado came through, the bricks came down and killed her, and doing God's work. So it was just it's a lot of sad stories. Everybody who didn't die, there are some stories of people who lived, but some people lost limbs, and some people, will never, their lives never be the same after this devastation. So just take a quick prayer, pray for the people in St. Louis, Missouri, for this devastating tornado that's really going to take a few years to kind of get things back to some normalcy. I've been working down at the EOC, and there's a lot of planning and a lot of meetings and a lot of resources that we're pulling from. It's a great learning experience too. You don't want to have a tragedy like this to learn all of this stuff that you normally wouldn't practice on the tabletop, but it is a great experience. If the experience is a win-win where we get to learn how to help and mitigate, but at the same token, help people, then it could be a win-win, because you can tabletop this stuff all day long. It doesn't match the experience of doing it. And I know people like in, St. Louis, we get windstorms, bad thunderstorms, but like I said, there's been a tornado like this since 1959. Now, if you live in somewhere like probably Miami or a lot of the Florida states who they get hurricanes all the time, then they're prepared for the mitigation and preparedness. They got building codes, and they got a whole game plan that I'm sure they got outstanding EOCs that take care of business. But when there's one of them kind of things that hardly ever happen, a lot of us are just, mitigating stuff we're learning kind of as we go along. So lucky we got some talented people down at the EOC. We got a new mayor, and she's just, last month she got elected. It is trial by tornado, and I'm sure when you go to mayor training school, they don't say, now what if it's a tornado? What you gonna do? So she's kind of figuring out as she go along as well. So anyway, just pray for the people who suffer. Pray for people who will never get back in their house. Pray for the uninsured. Pray for the people who were barely making it in the first place, and this tornado just kind of finished everything. So pray for the recovery. And I always say, when people think they got it going on and that would never happen to me, I remember my grandmother saying, by the grace of God, there go I. So don't think you can't get got, and don't think that one lady, like I said, she was in church serving dinner. She would have thought she felt like, I'm being somehow protected, and she was taken, and I'm not trying to make light of it, but I mean, if I'm serving dinners, I'm thinking like I'm jumping ahead of the line when if I'm dead, I'm going to the pearly gates. I was already in church. So, hook a brother up, but nonetheless, it was I'm glad that, she was definitely a believer in her faith. She definitely was doing God's work. And when she perished, even though she's going to be missed by her family and friends, they have to have some kind of peace in knowing that she's in a better place. And I'm sure everyone who's perished, they are. So you just never get amazed by the continued dynamics of our profession and seeing it boots on the ground. So like I said, I worked in the field a little bit, helped a couple of friends, and not only did that, just helped with the union, getting out, helping. And now working down at the EOC has been a great experience in helping. So anyway, we appreciate your prayers for us in St. Louis. And so tonight we're going to have a great discussion with my good friend and colleague, Tiffanye Wesley. Tiffany and I have been rocking and rolling on the road, running into each other and speaking at conferences and things like that for maybe about a decade now, if I counted right. If not, it's either close to a decade before, close to a decade after, but definitely close to that time. And she's a dynamic speaker. and motivator. I've been into her classes. She's been to mine. We there to cheer each other on. She likes to steal my stuff sometimes. I steal hers. I got to find me a football player. She walks in. If you've ever been to her class, she got this whole Ray Lewis thing. She walks in. Obviously, she's a Ray Lewis fan, but she walks in bold and just takes charge of the class from the get-go. And she keeps you captivated from the get-go all the way through the class and ends it pretty powerfully. So if you haven't taken one of her classes, then definitely you're missing a treat. So usually, since when I know people, I don't usually perform, but I felt like I'm trying to do things a little different, trying to step up the game here at the Larry Conley Radio Show. And I said, let me write an introduction for Tiffany, since she's going to be co-hosting, putting on the spotlight there, making her the co-host. I said, well, at least I can do is kind of formally uplift her. And especially since she knocked out that many years at Arlington, she'll talk about that. So tonight, you're just going to be talking to kind of two old retired firefighters, just talking about leadership and retirement. And because that's what we're doing now. We was young in the game, thinking like this day will probably never come, and it's here. Yeah. And we used to read about, before podcast kids, and we used to read about people like this, read them in the books and magazines, and thinking like, that's a long way off. And now here we are, just two old firefighters discussing retirement and leadership. So we're going to be talking tonight to a true trailblazer, retired Deputy Chief Tiffanye Wesley of the Arlington County Fire Department. Chief Wesley spent her career breaking barriers and building leaders, and today we'll dive into her powerful journey, her recent retirement, and how she's still shaping the future of the fire service, especially through her work, our work. And by the time you get this recording, Tiffany and I would be dead in the middle of the Carl Holmes Executive Development Institute happening at Dillard University, June 1st through the 6th, where we'll both be serving as instructors. And we've been doing that for a minute. And we always enjoy going down there, and you'll get a little taste of what that's all about doing this podcast. But we'll talk about the legacy and the leadership and the mentorship and what it means to serve with a purpose on and off the fireground. So stick around, because this was going to be packed with Tiffany's wisdom, heart, and fire. Yeah, she's fiery. Don't get her started. I'm going to have to divide the show into 2 segments after that. So anyway, Tiffany, what's happening?
Hello. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I couldn't get these other people to schedule themselves for the show. After over 13 years of doing this, everybody got busy on me. So I said, let me call over reliable, my good buddy Tiffanye Wesley, see what's up. So, but main reason I wanted to talk to you too, I was going to talk to you anyway, because you recently retired.
Yes.
I retired. We're not going to get into the nuances about some of our retirement story, but that's another story. There's another podcast too. But there is joy in making it through to retirement when you consider the kind of work that we do. And
absolutely.
And when you go from the academy in the firehouse, and fighting fires and making rank, and then going from the fireground to these boardrooms, and then getting that bug to go, hey, I think I could do a little more, and decide that, hey, teaching. Imagine that. I never thought that would be something I'd be necessarily doing on this scale. But so you and I, we've talked, extensively off the record. And so we got a lot of similarities when it comes to what our journey is, even though we're in 2 parts of the country doing it. So tell me, how does it feel stepping away from the uniform after such a distinguished career?
I would say it's bittersweet. The uniform is definitely more than just fabric, just a uniform for me. The uniform was, and I will say it still is, part of who I am. After doing it for 30 years, it's a symbol of everything that I had to overcome, and the accomplishments, and as well as the things that I had to overcome. So it's been bittersweet, but I am permanent smiles. I tell people, come on in. The water is great over here on this side. I am enjoying my retirement. Thank you.
Good deal. And it's good to enjoy all aspects of your life. I always say that when people, say they miss it. I say you can miss it all day long, but try to enjoy where you are now as well. I enjoy, being in the depths of being in running calls and all that, even though it was sometimes during the weather I didn't like, but you can't take away from the experience and the people. What moments stand out to you the most when you look back over your time with the Arlington County Fire Department?
It's so many, it's hard to come up with a few, but I would say as far as the accomplishment side, a few that stand out is, of course, making and passing bomb school and becoming a nationally certified bomb.
I heard you with the bomb. I heard
Yep. I am the bomb, and as well as a nationally certified bomb technician. So that's one, because that's something you wouldn't expect, especially as a female, and definitely as a African American female. So that, and then becoming the station commander for the largest and busiest firehouse in Arlington. And then I would say, I was trying to think of which one. Like my battalion chief definitely was, it was big, because I was the first in the entire Northern Virginia area, and the first in my department to reach that rank, and then deputy after that. So it's so many defining moments, but those are the ones that really, those are good to talk about, but the true moments are the ones watching policy change, that I was involved in, and advocating for those who normally are not advocated for, or watching that first promotion that I know I helped, the individual study. So those are the ones that come to heart, outside of the accomplishments. Yeah,
because you can accomplish everything yourself, but like you said, I don't know, unless you just from the evil planet, I don't know anything that matches watching somebody evolved or accomplished from your input, that
Absolutely.
you gave them, especially when they come back at knowledge. And then even the ones that don't, you had an impact. So it's always great. Was there a defining moment when you knew you made an impact in the fire service? What was that defining moment, you think, or was there?
Probably when there was a young lady who, she still works for Arlington. She said that she applied because she saw my face. She saw a picture of me.
Right.
And I was like, wow. I would say all the time that that representation matters.
Yes.
But, it was something that I would say. And I didn't necessarily understand the magnitude behind it until I heard her say, you are the reason why I applied. I was like, wow. So it does matter, going out into the community and allowing people to see me, it matters. Even to the young, seeing somebody like, wow, it's possible. I don't know how many other department websites she went to and maybe didn't see anyone who looked like her. But I was happy to see that I was the reason why she came to Arlington.
Yeah, that's what's up. And you say she's still there. Huh? So
she's still there. Yeah. She's currently still there.
Be the best version of herself by the example of Chief Wesley there.
Yeah, absolutely.
What values and principles guided you through your journey, would you say?
Of course, integrity, courage. Courage is probably my biggest one. I teach about courage.
Right.
And equity, right? I'm big on all three. So if I had to choose, courage would be my top, and then the equity piece. I think it's vitally important to have varying, people at the table to speak on things, to make policies, to add input. So.
Yeah, that's important, because I think when we understand that the the fire service is a melting pot of its own. It's a microcosm of the societies that we live in, the communities that we live in. We can't just blow it off and say that's not that important. It is important because we represent the whole community. And like you said, for your example, the young lady came on because of you. She may or may not came on if she didn't see any representation in that regard, or value that. So if you can give your young firefighter self one piece of advice, what would it be?
That's funny. I love that question because I actually do have a young, she's not a firefighter, but I do have my younger self. So when I'm always amused when people ask that question. So my daughter, which is also my why, she is my younger self. She's a sergeant in the Washington, D.C. Police Department. And so we probably talk daily or every other day just about the differences as well as the similarities in our professions. We're both dealing with public safety. Right. And so a lot of the things, I would like to say I have become her mentor. She calls and bounces things off. And I love that because I can help her navigate some of the challenges and some of the landmines that I stepped into unnecessarily. Sure. Right. And so some of the things I tell her is you belong in the room. Right. Stand up and speak up when it's necessary, have courage, and always know that you belong in that room. Don't allow anyone to make you feel any differently. Right. So that's the biggest thing that I tell her.
Yeah, because what they belongs. Say, if you ain't at the table, you're on the menu. So
you're on the menu, absolutely. Yeah.
But that makes a lot of sense. Now, so far, I know you only been retired a short time, but what's been the biggest surprise in your retirement so far? Good or challenging?
The biggest surprise is how time goes each day. Like, my days fly by. I don't feel like I'm actually retired yet because I've still been busy. Yeah. Yes. And I look up and it's like lunchtime. I haven't eaten. I still get up at the same time. I still get up early. Right. But the days have been flying. So I'm looking forward to my youngest graduates next week.
Wow.
And so I've been really busy, as anyone knows, as children, like senior years, like incredibly busy. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to dropping them off at college and being able to just be totally free. I'm getting ready to be an empty nester. So I'm looking forward to not having to get up and take them to school or just. Yeah. You
might have some withdrawal pains from that for a minute, though. But then
I probably will. I'm sure I will because it's going to be quiet in the house, and I am going to miss them. But I am looking forward to just,
nothing. Yeah,
nothing. Like, what are you doing today? Nothing. I don't have anything to do.
Nothing. Right? Nothing. No thing at all.
I have not had experienced that yet. So,
so how would you say you're challenging? Can't see when you're tired, you can't talk. Talk. How you channeling your passion for leadership and service in the next chapter of your life?
Well, you already know, instructing and presenting is my passion, right? And so when people ask, what am I going to do? Of course, I'm going to continue to speak and teach. Because leadership is something that it's a passion of mine and it's something that's still needed, right? Especially now. Yeah. And so some of the ways I'm continuing to develop myself, continuing to read, continue to stay abreast on my subject matters and continue to accept speaking engagements. Yeah. And of course, as I've always said, when I tell people at the end of my class, when I give out my number, I say, when I say you can call me, you can call me. So people have been reaching out and and I'm excited because now I really do have the time to just sit there and, whether it's mentoring, whether it's just being there as a listening ear, And that's my passion, right?
Yeah. You're still serving.
Oh yeah. I'm a servant. I'm a true servant.
What do you think the fire department needs from its retirees and veterans at this point?
Ooh, what do I think the fire department needs? I think that as a retiree, we still have to be the bridge, right? Mm-hmm. Just like you started the segment and you said, two old retirees. Speak for yourself because, I'm still young. But I think they still need our voice.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they still need to hear, and I'm not saying like continue to just talk about the old times and the bad experiences that we have, but the younger generation does need to know that there were times that were bad.
Sure.
They need to know and understand that there were things that we had to overcome so they could be in the fire service and they could sit at those tables. So we need to continue to be involved, and help everyone understand the leadership on down, that.
Right. Now, I think young people now, whatever cause you decide to take on, understand that the baton still needs to be passed because somebody passed it on to have your quality of life. And whether it was a great sacrifice, sometimes they might have lost their reputation, lost their job, or just had to endure things that a person didn't put their head above the crowd, didn't have to endure. But we're better for it because of the people before us, which is some of the stuff we're going to talk about a little bit tonight, talking about Dr. Carl Holmes. Have you found a new mission or purpose in this new phase in life?
New, I wouldn't say necessarily new. It's the same. I'm still carrying on trying to build leaders, leaders with integrity, leaders that are willing to stand up and change. So that mission is still the same.
Yeah. No, that's good. We give back to the leadership of and well, let me say this. I was getting ready to go into that phase, but I think I'm going to talk about you've heard me talk about personal leadership. That's our brand. When I'm doing the Empower model with me and my brother David teaching glue and our Empower model. And so, I'm big on personal leadership. And with that personal leadership, I definitely think it's something I wouldn't teach if I didn't think it's something everybody should be modeling and making sure that they are, it's a foundational part of who you are, because that makes you a better firefighter, makes you a better person, makes you better for your family, your community, and definitely for your team. And then all of those things built solidly makes you a better servant for the public, because you don't know who you're going out to save or serve or whatever any given day. So since you've been to the class, you done had countless talks with me about personal leadership. What does personal leadership mean to you now that you've stepped away from formal command?
Personal leadership, I would say, is the continued holding myself accountable, even though I'm not working, but still holding myself accountable to, whether it's family, whether it's my children, whether it's the people that I'm mentoring, it's still built in that whole accountability piece, right? Even though I'm retired, I'm still looking to serve, right? And continuing to be courageous, and just continuing in that development piece. And so that to me, that's personal, right? Learning when to, I listened to something today, learning when to be silent, right? And understanding in that silence is not necessarily a bad thing. You don't always have to be visible, but understanding that in that silence, I'm developing, right? I'm pruning out those things that are not necessarily so I can be a better teacher, so I can be a better leader. So that's, those things is what I consider personal leadership.
Because, me, I think that the more you work on that and continue to work in that garden, pruning and weeding out and all that, then you're always ready to deliver a quality service, whether you're doing it formally on the job or whether you, like you said, we both are in the street and, traveling and teaching, but you can't, pour from an empty cup, so to speak. So how do you see leadership evolving in the fire service today?
How do I see it evolving?
Yeah, how do you see leadership evolving in today's fire service? Or can you say that you've seen it evolve since you've been on? Since.
Oh, definitely. I've definitely seen. Yeah. Yes, 3 decades. I've definitely seen it evolve. I am excited about the new modes of learning, the modes of delivering teaching. And so I'm especially excited about the evolution of technology that we can include to making our classes more engaging. I've always used the engagement tools as much as I can to keep it exciting because, long gone are the times where we're just sitting up looking at a PowerPoint or flipping through flip charts. You want the true engagement from the class, right? You want people to come in and feel there's a safe space to be vulnerable and transparent. And so that's what I'm all about. And so I'm especially excited that, we're slowly, in some regard, we're slowly picking that up. The importance of being vulnerable, right? Yeah. The more vulnerable you are, the more people can understand, okay, this is what it really looks like behind this badge, right? Anybody can put the uniform on and stand up and act like there's nothing, no hardships, nothing to overcome. But when you can be transparent and vulnerable and create a space for that where others can share, that's where the beauty comes in. Yeah. And so that's what I'm most excited about, the involvement of, teaching and training.
Yeah, I respect what you just said, especially since we've known some of, just in the last couple of months, I've either read about, knew these people or something that's all have decided to choose suicide at the end of their lives. And they I can't help but think that part of it was not them feeling they could be vulnerable in some safe spaces to really say, this is what I'm feeling and this is what it is. And I need a safe space to express it so I don't make that permanent decision for what may be a temporary pain, right? Or or whatever the pain is. And I don't know. And it was at the time when I was younger that I think I was a little more judgmental, like, oh, I can't imagine doing that. But as my grandmother would say, keep living because you don't know what you're gonna go through, and say, what's the point, But you need to be in a space to where there's a healthy counter to that thought to keep you here a little while longer and let you know that you definitely still probably have something to give, And so, but like you said, creating those transparent, vulnerable spaces where they can see, oh, okay, you're going through some stuff too. And you hurt too. And you don't have to keep up this false superhero thing just because you wear the badge. Absolutely. It could be a great witness to somebody who thinks that there's no other way to deal with their issues, And
that's what I think is still lacking. I think that's still lacking, even going down to, as leaders, understanding that this type of call, even though you may fake, because, I'm big on imposter syndrome, class I teach, even though as a leader, you're faking like it doesn't affect you, whether it did or not, you have to be mindful that the younger ones may be affected, right? Yeah. Yeah. And so I think while we are starting to put behavioral health specialists in our fire departments, I still think there's so much more we can do.
Oh, yeah.
It's so much more we can do, because there's a reason why the suicides are still higher than the line of duty deaths. And that's a passion of mine.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you said that. I mean, something I mentioned in my keynote speeches, it's insidious, and, and like I've said before, it might not do the acute fast suicide, but if you are not taking care of yourself because you don't value yourself, you don't see any value in you, the only value you see is being a firefighter, but you don't see the value in being a good person and taking care of business when it comes to the things you say you value. That's a slow suicide in our health and our relationships and things of that sort. So we got to be careful thinking it's just as dramatic as taking your life. It can be as dramatic as the slow erosion of things, because you haven't properly dealt with all the PTSD stuff that we see. And even me now finally adopting, going to counseling, it's been revealed to me that you may think in your mind, I'm coping with it. You compartmentalize. I'm coping with it. I'm good. I done made a couple of jokes about it. I'm good. But that's not how your mind is processing it, or how your spirit and your soul is still processing it real, even though you might be a Jedi mind tricking yourself into something else. So real is going to catch up with fake after a while. And it's going to come out, whether it comes out in taking your life, or it come out in destructive behavior, come out in broken relationships, it come out in alcoholism, it come out in all these different ways if it's not properly addressed, along the way. That makes sense.
And in your body.
Yeah.
I'm a testament. PTSD can play out in different area aches and pains in your body that you're wondering, so all of the above. Yeah.
You've often spoke about emotional intelligence and servant leadership. How do those play a role in developing future chiefs, you think?
I believe they're everything. Emotional intelligence is what helps you lead people, right? You have to have a true understanding of people. You have to have an understanding of what servant leadership truly is. And that's taken out. This is not about me. This is about serving others, right? Helping them to develop into better leaders. So emotional intelligence is everything. Similar to what I said, it also speaks to when to address something and when to not. I always say, pick and choose your battles. Every battle does not have to be fought, right? And that comes with emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And it also comes, as you continue for me personally, as I continue to go up the ranks, some of the things that I didn't address in my earlier officer years, I began to understand, okay, this needs to be addressed, and this needs to be addressed immediately, right? And so without those, your title means nothing, in my opinion,
Right. With that being said, can you share a time when you had to lead through adversity, and how did you maintain your core values?
Oh, that's good. I pretty often, especially towards the end of my career, I had to lead through adversity. And so the way I did that was, just like I said, sometimes there were times where I would just go silent. And I'm a woman of faith first. So my faith is strong in the Lord. So I go to prayer. I've been doing affirmations for over 30 years. So over the entire time that I've been in the fire service, I've done them with my kids. I've taught my kids affirmation, but that's something that I've held on to, just reminding myself who I am, right? Reminding myself that I belong. And so that's what helped me. Prayer, fasting, exercise, eating right, all of those things that they talk about will help are what I drew near to. But the most important one was my prayer life and my affirmations.
Yeah, I can witness that, because I know you talk about that a lot. And I know that you've taken care of yourself. You're winning bodybuilding contests and stuff too, and your son. So that was cool to be a mother and son duo doing
Yeah.
that. So everybody can't say that. Be like, yeah, that's my mama, but she ain't gonna win no bodybuilder contest.
Right.
But she's a sweet lady, really, really sweet lady, So,
Yeah.
but who are the mentors that shape your lifestyle, and how are you passing that on?
Oh, so one of my biggest mentors, and we're going to talk about it in just a few minutes, was, of course, the late Dr. Carl Holmes. Also, Chief Tony Washington, Fire Chief Tony Washington down in Decatur, Georgia, is one of my mentors. And then probably the most influential are my pastor, my first lady.
I thought you were going to say me.
I'm sorry. I'm but my pastor,
first lady.
Yeah, my pastor and first lady, we are very close. And so just watching them, being a leader, and I was my first lady's armor bearer before they retired. Okay. And so what that means is, I would travel with her, I would pray for her, I would lift her up. And so we developed a, more than an armor bearer first lady relationship, we developed a friendship. And so I was able to have access into the real, like I say, the real behind the badge. I was able to have access to real, because I often compare, like pastors and leadership, executive leaders. We think that it's all glorious, but we're human, people too, right? Yeah, we're real people. We have real emotions. Things don't always go as planned. Right. We don't always say the right things. But I love being able to have access to my pastor and first lady and just,
No, that's real cool, especially, that they're going to give you the best wise advice as possible. It ain't always right, can be subjective, but wise kind of wins it all, in my opinion,
Absolutely.
What are the qualities you believe every fire service leader must cultivate in this next generation?
Oh, this next generation, definitely, I would go back to courage, because that's something that I think is lacking. And I would say it's lacking because, again, suicides are still high. And I'm not saying it's all fire service, but we do know that the cultures are still not right.
Right.
And so I would say the courage. We need leaders with courage to speak up, and speak out on things that they see that are wrong, right? I would say we need leaders who have cultural competency, right? It's one thing to have a diverse crew, but it's another thing to take the time to learn about your diverse crew, right? Not just, I'm talking about a deep dive and understand their background and their upbringing, and understanding why they may do certain things or why they may think a certain way. Right. And so that's something that the fire department needs to start to explore. Bring in behavioral specialists that have a cultural competency. Right. Just like everyone doesn't learn the same, everyone does not process trauma the same. Yeah. So, and compassion. Oh my goodness. Compassion, empathy, right? Yeah. Interpersonal skills. Yeah. Again, everyone does not.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, again, everyone does not process things the same. Losing my mother may be different than someone else losing their mother, because I was a caregiver. So compassion, having some compassion.
And I was going to say, based on what you were saying, that could go a long way and maybe preventing some of these permanent decisions that people make because they don't feel isolated, unheard, or anything else. They're a whole people, just like the people that we serve, so it makes sense.
If you can lead skills. I'm sorry. I was just going to say technical skills only is no longer good enough, right?
It never has been. People used to hide behind that because it made them feel a certain kind of way, but that was the outer shell working, and meanwhile the inner shell is eroding, and it's one of the reasons we even was big on our personal leadership ministry and mission is because I can see that erosion. I recognize that. And it was a continued love letter to myself. I knew that I had the lighthouse to always go to because of the stuff, that we taught. I had to live it out too. I just couldn't be teaching it and then coming back and having erosions on myself, so
absolutely
sustaining me in that regard. If you could lead the audience with one challenge or call to action, what would it be?
Ooh. A call to action would be find someone to mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Speak up. Have the courage to say the hard thing in the room.
Right.
You said one thing. I'm sorry. I gave you three.
Do your thing.
I gave you three.
That's how retirees do. We just keep running. We just keep talking.
Right.
We ain't got nowhere to go.
You're right. No, I can give you many. But overall, I would say if you are in a place of influence, which that does not have to be that, I'm not speaking of only the fire chief or only the deputy. If you are in a place of influence, you could be a firefighter in your station and have influence. If you are in a place of influence, use it. Use it, for the positive, for the betterment, for the development of people. Right.
No, I like that. That's real powerful. And we just got to all have that, pass it on. I mean, the fire service is already infused with that anyway. We just drilling down on it more and being compassionate, empathetic, and really trying to dive into the whole person may be the addition to it. But, as long as I can remember, somebody always said, "Hey kid, let me help you with this. Let me show you this," or whatever. So that's always been, we just have to make sure that we have more of a hyper focus. So we're just not saying, "Hey kid, let me show you about these technical skills." And you say, "Well, I really want to discuss some personal things, but we ain't got time for that," So we need to make sure that we are all inclusive in all of it, I got a few last questions I want to answer, but before we get to that, I did want to get in our talk about Dr. Holmes and the greatness of Dr. Holmes. And it's a place you and I are going to be hanging out. And it's just a magic place to hang out to help to help the next generation of firefighters do their thing. Some people might ask the question. I know a lot of people ask, but for those who don't know, like they might say, "Well, who is Dr. Carl Holmes?" And I took a few notes, so let me know if you agree. He was a visionary fire officer and a civil rights pioneer. He founded EDI. EDI is short for Executive Development Institute, to remove systemic barriers to advancement for firefighters of color. He believed in building community leadership from within the community. The mission of EDI is executive level training for firefighters of color. Homegrown leadership development based on cultural competence and operational excellence and mentorship. When we talk about Carl Holmes' vision of yesterday, today, and tomorrow, then yesterday it was creating space when no one else would. He was famous for that. Today is still one of the most powerful leadership pipelines in the country. And tomorrow he's training leaders to serve diverse communities with insight and empathy, kind of things you was touching on. You can't be empathetic if you don't practice it in make it part of your leadership DNA. Tiffany, how much money we gonna get paid to go down there and do that? Probably, I've never got it checked. We don't get paid anything, so it must be the love and passion and our dedication to passing on the baton, and all the great instructors who fly from around the country to come down and educate for a week down at the Carl Holmes EDI, and the good thing about what we do at EDI is that you don't need a degree to go. You can be any rank. You can only have a minute on the job, or you can have 100 minutes on the job, and you can still be treated the same, going to get the same information and going to get the same stuff that's going to advance you. It's a commitment to serve above self. What's the motto that we got down there? All I am, I owe. I live eternally in the red. I live eternally in the red. And as long as we continue to understand that, you don't never get to a point to where you live internally in the black or the green or whatever positive color you think, in the red. If you look at in the red in your checkbook, that means I still got work to do.
I still have work to do. Absolutely.
So we still got work to do when it comes to this mentorship thing. Honoring the legacy of Dr. Cora Holmes by giving back, investing in future generations of fire leaders. These are some of the reasons that we do it of our own time, use our own vacation time, use our own trading time with people at the firehouse and stuff like that. Of course, when you're retired, you could just ain't got to worry about that,
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
you do it. But that just shows the dedication too, because people who was able to help teach when they were working and making those sacrifices, and now you're still doing it when you don't, just goes to show there's a consistency in your dedication,
Absolutely.
Some of the powerful quotes I'd like to talk about be EDI teaches you how to lead when no one expects you to lead. Dr. Holmes didn't ask for permission to create change. He taught others how to embody it. Leadership isn't about rank, it's about readiness. And that's what EDI prepares us for. Another thing is, this isn't just about career development. It's community development in uniform. And that one stuck out to me the most because I know my firehouse was definitely in the hood, and everybody knows what Truck 13 is in the hood, and it's one of the depressed neighborhoods in St. Louis City. However, it was great people. We had a great time, great service, and we kept those doors open. And hear me talk about the summertime. We kept the doors open. The kids come in. It was a safe place. We fixed their bikes. We helped them with homework when it was school time. We gave them advice. We let them hang out. It was about the community, and they respected that because these are the firefighters. So they come in and see us standing strong in the community and showing some empathy in the community. And even empathy as far as how we fought fires, for a long time, but people wasn't from that particular community. You fight fire, you think ventilating is busting out every window. Absolutely. Without no rhyme or reason to what ventilation should look like. Because this ain't my house. This is some depressed community. So I was glad that I was able to stand in the gap based on some of the principles that we learned when we go to things like this. I.e., I knew this stuff before I started serving with Dr. Holmes, but just having that empathy to say, hey, these people might have to move back in here. Let's try to keep this fire to their kitchen. It might smoke up a lot of the house, but let's try to keep it to the kitchen because they might not have the good insurance to take them to the Holiday Inn until the insurance fix their house. So let's be careful. We don't have to bust out every window. That's not good ventilation anyway. And studies have shown it's not. So if you don't know better, I'm getting ready to teach you the rules on this. And if you do know better, you're not being empathetic.
Absolutely.
But Captain Conley's here to keep that stuff straight. So we sometimes we had to do a little education, but just little things like that when you make yourself part of the community, no matter what color you are, then you have some empathy for the kids in the community. You have some empathy for how you even ventilate or fight fires in people's house and things like that. These are little intrinsic things that when you make it part of your DNA, then you can serve better.
And changing the mindset. I remember to that point, going to EDI and just being around it. Like-minded individuals who understood that, right? And so even though you said we knew that, but it helped to hear someone say, and I remember the first time I went back to my crew and I was like, how everybody, I hope we get a fire today. Do you really? Do you understand what that means? If someone gets a fire today in their home,
Yeah.
and so to your point, now having someone come back and help individuals change their mindset. How about we not hope we get a fire today? Because that means someone may potentially lose everything they have, or they could potentially lose their own life or one of their family members. So it's bigger than sitting around like, hoping that we get a fire today. Yeah.
I said the same. It's funny. I had that same conversation. One guy, and he was like, well, what are you talking about? You sound like you're scared to get a fire. Well, I said, no, I'm not. I said, but if you want a fire so bad, you live in the city, don't you? He said, yeah. I said, why don't we start with your house? Your wife and your little girl and your newborn. Let's start with them. And let's hope we get a fire and destroy your house and your collection and put your wife and kids in the hyperbaric chamber and maybe worse. Let's start there. Yeah. Let's shut that conversation down real fast. See, as long as somebody else, then you have this.
Exactly.
Talk. So then they was like, well, what should I say? I said, say this, because I want to leave you with something. I still want you to have the go-getter attitude when we get one. Because unfortunately, we are going to get one because of the neighborhood we're housed in. But let's say this. I hope we don't get a fire. But if we do, then I'm glad that I'm on duty because all of my training and dedication to my craft and God ordered my steps to get me there quick so I can make a difference to save life and property as much as I can control.
Absolutely. That's
what you pray for, that I send me, Lord, to help somebody with inevitable happening in their house. Mm-hmm. But don't wish it was happening because it ain't you.
Right. Absolutely.
So, but like you said, these are kind of things that help with that empathy. And you got to understand too, that's why you need to practice that, because when you practice that empathy at the firehouse with each other, then that empathy becomes a habit that gets practiced in the community. It extends out.
Absolutely.
But if you ain't got no empathy here, you're not going to have empathy. Empathy sometimes comes when we used to have to do community things. We're going to be in a parade. If 4 raggedy cars in the parade and a drum line that sounds bad, but they celebrating. That's the best they got with the resources. And they got the fire truck. And we're going to do them just like we do the big parade downtown. We're going
to still shine our trucks and still, walk proudly. Yes, absolutely.
Same way. So I was unwavering on that kind of stuff. And when it was, then it kept us consistent, because you can't practice judgment over here and think that when it counts, I'm going to flip on the switch and not be judgmental.
Absolutely.
Judgmental is 2 words. And I said, I'm going to write an article, but don't steal my stuff, Tiffany, but judgmental, and I wanted to try to find a way to play with those 2 words, because, if your mental is to judge, you don't want to be judgmental like that, so. Anyway, so we'll play with those words and see what we come up with. So it's community development in uniform. So what's the one thing EDI gave you that you couldn't find anywhere else in the fire service?
Believe it or not, that courage. My courage, honestly, came from my time at EDI. As we all know, or maybe some of you don't, it is a 5-year program, once a week for 5 years that you go through this program. Yep, 5-year program. And so I started in 1998. And so at that point, I only had 4 years on one. So consider still, new. What we used to term a rookie, I would guess, in the fire service, because I was still new. And I was fortunate to go that soon, right? And so they gave me the courage, because I started having obstacles and barriers early in my career. And so some of the things that I didn't necessarily believe I had the power to speak up on, EDI gave me that. And they helped me to understand, no, you can speak up and you need to speak up.
Right.
And so that's one of the biggest things that they gave me, was the courage to speak up and the belief. Like I said, I've always been a faith-based godly woman, but they helped me to understand that, believe in yourself, believe that you can be a leader in the fire service. And so they helped me understand that.
Yeah, that's the magic I like when I go, is to see so many success stories. People come back and just watch the leadership from around the country, running major departments, major divisions, in major cities, and doing it with class and doing it with knowledge and doing it and just doing it. It's an amazing thing to see. Yeah. You have to go if you haven't been. Can you reflect and share a powerful student or graduate success story from EDI outside of yours?
I was going to say mine, but no, I wasn't going to say mine anyway. I would say, honestly, Deputy Chief Kalila Yancey, right?
Hi, girl.
Yes. She just graduated recently from, 2 years ago. I think it's been two. This is going into the second year. Graduated from EDI. But she started there. I believe she was a lieutenant when she started. And so just to think, a lieutenant when she started, and 5 years later, she's a deputy chief, right? And doing it well. Yes. And excelling in it, and having the courage to speak up, and having the courage to believe that she belongs in the room, even when some others challenged and didn't think she deserved her promotion to deputy chief, and all of those things. She stood up and accepted it and is doing it well. So, but it's not just that, it's so many, it's so many success stories that have come from EDI. One of the greatest things I love at the graduation each year, they ask everyone to stand up who have been promoted within the past year. And it is a beautiful sight to see the numbers of people that are standing up. It's great. So many people standing up. Yeah, it's great. I mean, you go to class all day. And, all day and night. All day and night. Then you go 2 hours at night. And so it's no go down there and, it's New Orleans, kick it. Right. You ain't going to be successful trying to kick it at night and be in class all day, because you're going to be in class all day. But you're only doing it once a year for a week. So you need to get all the knowledge you can. And if you take that knowledge back with you and become an asset to your department, then it's worth it. So don't just spend your money and go. Right. Go. And what I like is all inclusive. Like you go to New Orleans for the price of EDI, you can go to New Orleans and spend that in a few days. With EDI, you pay your costs. You stay on the campus of Dillard University. You get 3 meals a day. You get your dorm room. It's all inclusive. So, you put your coins together every year. You make it down there. You get serious about the studying, serious about engaging, serious about the networking that you do with some of the great leaders down there. Pick people's brain on that off time, and then come home empowered and ready to go and ready to make a difference, And what?
Go ahead.
Let me just interject, because I want to say something about that. You mentioned something very vitally important: the networking piece. Yes. And there's a reason why. So I graduated in 2003. I went back and I worked in the admin for a number of years, and now I'm back as an instructor, where I've been since 2017. And so if that doesn't speak volumes of how important this program is, I can tell you that I go each year, my cup is full, right? But my cup is overflowing when I leave, honestly. And so that's why I continue to go, because even though my cup is full when I go into the environment, imagine leaving with a cup running over. From that networking piece and the mentoring piece and the giving back. And I would say, I often think, is it the education piece or the networking piece?
I think it's a hybrid.
I was going to say it's a hybrid, but sometimes for me, I know when I went, that networking piece was just, that was the part that overflows. Because it's the late night conversations that I was able to have with a fire chief, right? Understanding and asking any question I wanted to ask, and having that in-depth conversation that, as we know, the whole chain of command thing in the fire service, I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, but there are some times that we can't even reach the top. We can't have those interpersonal conversations with our chiefs. And so, I better plug my phone up. My phone is about to die. But yeah, so I love EDI, and I will continue to go back as long as they will have me.
Based on what you just said, you got people who are running major cities, $1 billion budgets and $1 million budgets and all that, and in the news and well respected for their leadership. And these same people are just like you said, they sit down at the same table with you having lunch and just informally talking to you about, because they are in their spirit invested in you rising in the ranks, and giving you these key nuggets, not just come down there teach a class, but they able to give you these key nuggets outside the class to say, this will work for me.
Right.
Or I can refer you to somebody who going through a similar thing that you're going through. Why don't you go talk to so-and-so at that table? Or like you said, have those informal conversations out in the yard or after class, in between classes. So it's a magical connection there for real.
Yeah. And it's actually, I'll just say this one last thing. I know it's getting late, but it's actually, when we come onto the campus, it's no ranks, right?
No.
And so I remember everybody's a chief, right? So I remember my first year sitting at lunch, and, I'm talking to this gentleman, engaging, asking questions, did not know who he was. Right. Later in the day, I go to the class, and he was the fire chief from Oakland. I was blown away at how interpersonal he was and how much he shared. I'm like, and EDI is the place where I was able to see, I think all of the four standing, they eventually made fire chief, but the Black females. I went through EDI, at the same time.
Rosemary and all.
Rosemary, yes. Rosemary Cloud. So being able to see, that was such an impact, because I was like, it is possible. It's possible. So especially now, being able to go and see, it's possible.
You think a lot of times your ecosystem or your fire department is what it is until you go out.
Until you go out.
Yeah, you go like, man, it ain't that limited, or we doing pretty good, then in comparison.
Right.
It's kind of cool to see that.
Absolutely.
If Dr. Holmes were here today, what do you think he would say about the fire service leaders?
Well,
I gotta keep it clean. I can respect Dr. Holmes, but he spoke his mind for real.
He spoke his mind.
It's rated R, something. So it's a family show.
This is a family show, so I would say
the clean version is no.
He would probably speak to. I would go back to courage.
Yeah.
I would say he would speak to the lack of courage that our leaders have today. I would say that he would definitely speak to and ask why we are not standing up and taking our rightful place after all that he built and developed and encouraged us to do. It would probably be bittersweet, because I'm sure he would be so excited that we have still continued to hold EDI. Yes. Yeah. Over 30 years later. Right. Yeah. And we are still going strong right now. We have a waiting list. Right. And so it would be bittersweet, but I'm going to keep it clean. He would be excited about that part, that we are still continuing to develop leaders and chief officers, but he definitely would question why so many of us are sitting back and being silent, especially, I'm passionate about this, especially at a time like this. Right. Why are you sitting there being silent?
Because he was not.
He was not.
And he wasn't in a time where he could have got hurt or killed for not being silent.
Correct.
And
Correct.
I always say this about Dr. Holmes is that he was a doctor back in the day. You may or may not be old enough. You write papers. You wrote it longhand. You wrote it longhand,
right.
Or you typed on one of those manual typewriters. Whatever like that. This is Dr. Holmes before Google, Wikipedia, and looking stuff up.
Right. Chat GPT.
This is Dr. Holmes with microfiche and all that kind of stuff. So he became a doctor in those times, and when it was just like everything was kind of against you during those times. So
absolutely,
that's a heck of a legacy, and so I'm glad that he lived so we can continue to live and be a major contributor, quality contributor to the American Fire Service. And we got people that come from other countries to EDI too.
Yep, Africa.
And let me say this about
Caribbean.
EDI too. And this, everybody's welcome at EDI.
Everybody, yeah.
Because I remember, you thinking it's just totally one way. There's been some people who come down there and got all races, all, everywhere. Because the knowledge is what the knowledge is. And they took the knowledge, everybody done took the knowledge back. And when you apply it, it works no matter what gender or what color you are. It ain't about you going down there and learning Black stuff.
Exactly.
You learning stuff that a lot of times was not necessarily available. And even though information is better now that you can find information better, there's still a need to make sure that, especially when you're minorities in a lot of these departments, and there's still some systemic stuff going on. It's good to have a touchstone to go somewhere and be able to come out and boldly be able to come back and be a major contributor to your department and strengthen that department. And I always encourage when I teach my class, don't go back with this whole y'all need to watch out, because be the best version of you, like Dr. Holmes was. He was an asset to the Oklahoma City Fire Department. He was an asset. And not only was he an asset there, then he became an asset when he left there, and his legacy dictates what his asset is today. It's still around. So be that person, because that cuts through all of the barriers, human barriers that we put on ourselves. When you're talking about color, gender, and all that kind of stuff, we put that stupid stuff on ourselves and let it be separated. And in a fire service or a fire department or a team, we can't afford that. I cannot afford to not like you because of your social construct or your political views, because that might be a difference in me grabbing you in a reflex because you're in danger, than not stutter stepping and you perish because I don't like who you like in politics. I don't like who you like socially. We can't be that, know, and that's what I like about these type of teachings. They teach you to go back and be an asset and be a strength to your department. And this is not going back to continue the divisiveness. Is to go back and continue to be a force for making sure that we ain't got to like each other, but we got to respect each other. And I don't never want to work with anybody that I'm afraid how you feel about me. We got an intimate relationship whether you like it or not. So we better learn how to get along, at least for this 28 or 48 hours, unless we don't need to be firefighters, Just to wrap it up. Go ahead. Just get ready.
No, okay. And this will be by wrap it up. I can talk about EDI all night. EDI is I love you. See, I have that smile when I talk about EDI. But I was just thinking of something that I've heard said, and it's relevant to what you were just explaining. EDI is for everyone, right? Mm-hmm. And we know there are different executive leadership programs around. But I heard, I believe it was firefighter Trish Wolford that said EFO is for the how did she say it? EFO is for the head and FETSI is for the heart or something. And I was thinking about, those two programs. And if I would sum it up, and I would say, and EDI is for the soul. EDI is for the soul. So EFO can be the head.
Right.
NT can be for the heart.
Right.
But EDI is for the soul, right?
We all got soul. We all got soul.
We all have soul, and we all can understand what that means to have soul. And, because that's all encompassing of everything that we talked about this evening. The courage and the empathy and the compassion that comes from the soul of who you are. So
yes, I love that. I'm gonna have to make sure.
Don't steal it. Don't steal it.
I love it. I love it. I know what you're getting ready to say when you say it, because it's soul.
Right.
It's soul food, and the food.
The food is good.
The food is good. I look forward because I'm a bachelor, so I be home eating Vienna sausage all weird. But you go down there, you got them lady them hairnets, boy. They be serving it up, boy. Be
the food is good.
Man, the food is it's off the chain. So come to EDI, and you'll be proud to know we got a nice cadre of people coming from St. Louis. Maybe the biggest cadre, since.
Oh yeah, we have Arlington has the biggest cadre this coming. Yeah, I think it's 7.
We just have to count them. I think we got about 9 or 10. So we'll see.
Oh wow. Wow.
So we'll just have to count them when we get there, And if yours is less, then I get to eat your cornbread at lunch, So.
Oh wow.
You gonna eat your cornbread?
No.
You can't have my cornbread.
You can have.
No, but seriously, we got our good friend Jessica's coming, and Liz McCormick is coming, and so these are the ones I know because they're Galen. They used to be on my crew. Is coming. Galen
okay.
Taylor.
Oh, wow.
So you get to meet all these people. I think Captain Stephen Womack, Keith Blackwell. I'm missing some, but these are people who have approached me and say, "I'm coming."
Right. Yep.
And we were able to get the teachers, some of the people who graduated as teachers, but we got Captain Mosby, got Captain Stewart. They come and they went. So anyway, like you said, it's a good, you go down there, you learn, you come back, you contribute, you recycle. It's a great time. Wrapping up, what book, I know you're into this, so I love this question. What books do you recommend every leader read?
Oh, It's Your Ship.
It's Your Ship, yep.
It's Your Ship by Michael Asbrough, Captain Michael Asbrough.
I love that book. That was a great
book. That book.
Mm-hmm.
Any book by John Maxwell. I'm a big fan of John Maxwell.
Right.
And I would also say any book by Brené Brown.
Mm-hmm. I remember you mentioned that.
Are you familiar? Dare.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And this new one. Wait a minute. Oh my goodness! I'm reading it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see me scanning my room?
Right.
It's called. I posted it on Facebook, and everybody's saying share it next. Like send it. I have a whole list of people that wanted.
Right.
Oh my goodness! Hold on. I'm gonna have to go get it because I'm on a site visit. Everyone, the courage. Because I want you all to look for this book. I'll plug my phone back up so it won't go dead on me. I apologize. It's late. The courage to be disliked.
Yeah.
The courage to be disliked. And you heard me say,
well,
repeatedly, I talk about that courage in my class, imposter syndrome. So the courage to be disliked. And this is, I can't tell you it's a red book because the names are Ishiro Kashima, and the other last name is Koga, Kojaga. But the courage to be disliked. I'm gonna add it to the collection. Yes. Hey, you gotta add the courage because you're gonna get disliked anyway. So you might as well. Absolutely, you might as well lean into it. You might as well lean into it. There's a book called Lean Into. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You remember your favorite firehouse meal? Oh, since we're retired now, we could talk about that. Yeah, my favorite meal probably was the sausage and gravy. What do they call it? Sausage and gravy? No, that's not what they call it. The improper term that they called it when I was a rookie. Right.
Oh, I know.
Shit on the shingle.
Yeah, shingle. Right,
shit on the shingle.
I was just going to say, yeah.
That's probably my favorite.
I remember that.
Favorite.
Yeah. Simple and delicious,
Yes.
Yeah, that's what
I had never had it before the firehouse.
Yeah, that used to be my motto when I was dancing back in the day. Simple and delicious. But that's another story. Before.
Another podcast.
That was my life before I found God. Simple and delicious.
Wow.
I think I know this answer, but you might give another one. But I know one of them. So, what's the motto or mantra that you live by?
Oh, you already know. What you permit, you promote. And what you promote becomes your standard. And I'll say it again, just like every time I teach, I repeat it. What you permit, you promote. And what you promote becomes your standard. So that's relative to leadership, at home, at work, wherever. If you're permitting something, that means you're condoning it.
Right.
And it's going to become a standard, and people are that's how they're going to remember you. So I like to permit and promote excellence.
There you go.
So,
and that becomes that's your standard.
And that's my standard.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's been a great time as usual.
As usual.
I think we got out of it, and I look forward to us getting down there, going through the experience at the Holmes Executive Development Institute. Happens every year, the first week in June. So
first week in June.
Sign up. Come on through, no matter what.
Sign up and sign up early. Sign up early because we have a waiting list. So
it's now because it's sold out. It's a standing room only. So
that's exciting.
So come through, and it doesn't matter if you want to learn. You ain't got to have no college degree. You want some soul food for your soul, some learning for your soul, come down. Mm-hmm. You're definitely going to go back to your department empowered. And it don't matter what gender, what color, whatever, everybody's welcome, So look it up on the web and check it out. Sign up now so you won't be left behind next year, because we're going to have a good time learning and laughing down at New Orleans, Louisiana. The June 1st through 6th. I can't wait till I'm getting down there, and when I get down there, I think we're gonna start out Sunday. And who's one of my favorite speakers down there is the retired Lieutenant Joseph Muhammad, the voice.
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely, the voice.
I always give that inspirational speech. I always tell him, if I die, I want you to speak at my funeral. Say, James Earl Jones ain't here no more, and Morgan Freeman ain't looking too well, but Joe Muhammad, that dude can. You got to hear it to understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely,
like when you look at me funny, I'm like, you got the voice, man. You got the voice, But nonetheless, don't meet us there, beat us there at Decor Homes EDI. But anyway, thanks for hanging out. We're gonna talk some more in the future.
Thank you.
Retirement, just two old people talking about retirement, and she said she ain't old. Baby.
Well, old and a young person, so
younger. Okay, well, I'll give you that. You'll get it. I'll give you that. But I'll just say two retired people talking about leadership. That might be a new segment we do. Tune in for two retired people talking about leadership on the next Larry Conley radio show. But you all be safe. Look us up on www.gluenationldc.com. See where Dave and I are going to be. We're going to still be. You submit. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you. Have you submitted for FDIC yet, Tiffany? It's the 16th of June.
Yes.
That's the deadline. So
thank you.
All you instructors, we need to hear what you got to say at the Fire Department Instructors Conference, which is April of next year, 2026, in beautiful downtown Indianapolis. It's the biggest, baddest fire department convention gathering in the world. So I encourage you, if you haven't done it yet, June 1st is Sunday. So after that, you only got a few weeks to get it in. So start work on that. Don't rush in and throw something in at the last minute, because it's going to show. So we want to see you. We want to hear your voice. We want you to perform on the big stage with us. And Tiffany has spoken at FDIC numerous of times.
Since 2017.
And sellout crowds. She had standing room only in her classrooms and stuff like that. And if you were sitting down, by the time she was done with the class, you were standing because it was just that good. But my point is, the best of the best is going to be there. But so get that in June, by the end of business, June 16th. Get that in. Mine is in. Get yours in, and so we can see what you got. Because it's just like the lotto. You got to be in it to win it. So we want you to come. We want new voices. We want to pass the baton on to you. So thanks for hanging out with another great episode.
Thank you.
And thanks for hanging out with me, retired Chief Wesley, retired Chief Conley. And
thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Be safe. Have a good night.
I'll catch you the next time on the
Larry Conley Show.
Larry Conley Radio Show. We'll talk to you later. Goodbye.